Get my little avatar there. Um, so I appreciate any and all feedback on this little live stream here, and I do have my list of topics that I want to cover. So my first topic, little channel update. This channel is my research log. For those of you who haven't heard me talk about it before, so I am a hobby researcher. I have a full-time regular office job that pays the bills, but for my entire life, I've been a historian and a researcher, primarily the geography of battlefields in and around the state of Maryland, but branching out into architecture. And my real passion has become historic architecture. It's been really fun for me to wander through the streets of some old cities in the United States and really appreciate the areas where we have some substantial historic preservation going on, and also to kind of be concerned about areas where there's not preservation, where we have beautiful examples of architecture and maybe there are opportunities to save some of which are kind of on their last legs, some beautiful examples. And so this channel, I started out just making shorts. And the reason I did that was to keep track of where I was every day. I am I'm an evangelist about keeping your research log with you, but I am so bad about actually documenting in my log. And I keep and I'll do this on a separate video maybe. I have 3 different places where I go analog, and I love fountain pens and I love good pencils. So I have my traveler's notebook that goes with me everywhere, and that is more of that has my checklists. It's where I keep my notes, a little bit of prep, and where I organize some of my videos. My other notebook, I do have field notes, and I keep field notes with me all the time, little teeny tiny notebooks. But I also do make a itinerary and agenda, and I come back and then I write up my field notes based on that itinerary and agenda. And I kind of give myself a score as to whether I met all my research goals. Usually not even close. And I do that the old fashioned way by writing. But then my intention is to come back into my files on my computer and catalog all of the photos from each trip along with all of the maps, and to document my walking map in a Google map that I make sometimes for each journey. That hasn't happened recently. It doesn't happen often. So rainy days are good days to catch up. Now, here's the problem. I'm not just going to blame myself here. We have had amazing weather on weekends, really throughout the entirety of 2025. I cannot find a weekend where the entire weekend I was stuck in the house. That's fantastic. I've been able to hit the road. I've been able to travel. I've grabbed my dad. We've gone on the eastern shore of Maryland. So there's been so many opportunities, to get out and do cool things, but that leaves all the office work behind. Hey, Wade, it is so great to see you. Hi, James. Thank you so much for joining. But let's dig right into it. This video will provide, hopefully, some helpful hints if you're like me and you have thousands of photos that are waiting to be cataloged. And I want to talk about a naming convention that I use. You might use something similar, but this may help you find those videos in the future. So let's see if I can pull up my little, that actually worked. Okay, I'm going to show that I'm proud of myself once in a while, because I am entirely new to this adventure. Hey, James, I'm recovering from tonsillitis, so I hope you can bear with my voice. It is snowy and rainy outside. Normally, today at this time on a Sunday, I am out in the field doing architectural surveys, and walking tours, and it's the weather's terrible, but this is what we need to do today. We need to document our photos and catalog. Now, this presentation is one that this is part of a class that I've presented, and you'll see my little logo from my instructional channel there, primary sources. That's the real meat and potatoes geeky research channel. Um, Wade, I think you are because it is 34 here. It's just above freezing. So the snow is not, um, it's not accumulating, but it's real foggy too. I certainly can't film in the fog. So I hope you stay warm today. So part of the class, this is just part, trust me, hang in there. It won't be boring. The class that I teach is about using the global positioning system in genealogical research. I know that sounds like real heavy duty stuff, but part of the course is it is about photos and cataloging. So we'll just jump into the photo and video application here of GPS coordinates. So when I mentioned, hey, we're pretty much, we will be ancestors someday, right? So be a good ancestor to your future generations and make sure you're documenting your photos, including digital photos, with the names and the places and the events. What is on that photo? And I see StreamYard has done something really interesting with my PowerPoint presentation. So this is all a learning opportunity for me. In the oldie days, we just had to worry about people writing the names on the backs of the photos, right? Which they're pretty terrible about doing. Daphne, good morning. I hope you're staying warm where you are. I can't go outside today. It's just, ugh, it's foggy and rainy and snowy. So I hope, and I know Daphne, I know you do this, when you print out a photo, you write the names of the people who are in that photo on the back of the photo. That is so important to do for your future generations. We also have a leg up in terms of digital photos when we think about, well, where was that photo taken? So enabling the GPS on your phone, right, in the photo app of your phone, you do have to enable GPS. And you can do the same with your digital camera if it has that feature. That'll help you automatically capture the location in the GPS coordinates, and that is super, super helpful. So in this course that I teach, we're not going to go through the whole course. In the course that I teach, we talk about the general use of GPS coordinates, how we use it for images and improving our data capture, taking it to the next step and creating our own maps. And then what other apps and software can we integrate with GPS, like so we can integrate across apps? Oh, Wade, your wife, her sister, and mother are having an ancestry weekend next week while I'm in Tennessee. Oh, that's fantastic. That is wonderful. Just, the most important thing is to talk to the people who are still living, right? And get those stories down. So I'm so glad to hear about that. Wait, wait, if your wife, sister, or mom ever have any questions about research methodology, please feel free to reach out anytime. I know, Daphne. I have hundreds and hundreds of family photos. I'm so lucky that one of my ancestors was one of the very first studio photographers in Baltimore. And because of that, his photos were handed down to me. These photos date back to the 1850s. But unfortunately, well, I should say, fortunately, some of them do have the names written on the back, which is great. And I have a little teeny tiny photo album where I think my great great grandmother wrote everything down, and that's great. But I probably have hundreds that are missing the names, and it just gets on my nerves. And I've tried to do some photo archaeology, um, and there's a way you can do it if you blow up a photo and you make grids, you overlay a grid and you focus just on the eyes, the chin and the mouth, the hairline, even the ears. Sometimes you can make your best guess as to who the person is based on photos over the years. So if you have a picture of someone who's 12 and you know their name, and then you have a picture of someone in their late 20s, based on some of the physical features, you might be able to figure that out. But I wish, I wish folks would just write, on those old photos. And for digital photos, we'll talk about how easy it is to make sure you capture that data. Yeah, Wade, the iPhone allows you to go back and view photos by location. Isn't that great? And it's using that those GPS coordinates. Just some rules in general for using GPS: always record at the site. So I actually, you know, you can sit at your desk with a Google map open and click on a location and it'll give you the GPS coordinate. But you know what? We want our sources to be primary sources. So we want to go to the locations to the best we can. And I know there are some folks that can't get outside, and that's totally fine. But for those who can visit those important locations, go there, use your phone, and capture those GPS coordinates right there. Capture those photos. Don't take photos off of Google Maps or uh, Google Earth with the little guy. Go take your own photos. You'd be surprised. There could be mistakes out there. Capture coordinates for every single location you visit because you can upload all those coordinates and magically make your own maps. And so if you're doing a walking tour, I love to walk through my ancestors' old neighborhoods and go from place to place. And you can create a map just by capturing those photos along the way with the GPS coordinates. And then, of course, you want to always compare what you're researching and what you're finding to other sources. So James says, I don't know the name beyond my great grandparents. And Wade said that he was the same. Wade's mother in law joined Ancestry sites and found half sisters she didn't know. Yeah, it's amazing. I would say 20 years ago, it's actually probably 25 years ago now because it says it on my Ancestry account that I've been a member for 25 years. Um, that was the first step in us figuring out who we're related to. And then when DNA came along, oh my goodness, um, we're finding we have ancestors, relatives that we had no idea that we had because DNA doesn't lie. And it opens up so much more information about us. It also opens it up more information about our heritage. Um, whether I know that yes, I'm Polish and Russian and German, but my DNA came back with some other ethnicities that are really interesting to me, and we've got to, work to figure that out. It's a great hobby. It's an absolute great hobby. If you like mysteries, if you like puzzles, genealogy is for you. So when I said recording coordinates at the site, it's not hard to do that if you have a phone. It's really easy on any map application, whether it's Google Maps or Yahoo Maps or whatever maps you have. It's really easy to put a pin down, and usually right there on your phone, you can toggle and see the GPS coordinates, but you don't have to do it on site. You're doing other things. You don't want to write down this long string of numbers, right? Just put a pin or take a photo. And the photo will record those coordinates. Get familiar with a compass. I know this sounds a little elementary, but there are entire generations who don't know how to use a compass. It boggles my mind. I think I've always been attuned to the position of the sun, so I have an internal compass because I'm always outside. There are people today who don't know north, east, south, and west. Become familiar with the compass because that will help you compare the paper maps with where you are when you're physically visiting a site. I know that sounds pretty simple and elementary, but there are so many different ways you can see the GPS coordinates. And here you can see the GPS coordinates on your compass app on your iPhone or on your Yahoo map or your I'm sorry, your Google Map or your, what do you call it? What's the iMap? The phone map, the map on the phone. Um, you can see right there the GPS coordinates pop up. Now, if you're out and about and you pull up your compass and you see the GPS coordinate, then do a screenshot, right? If you're not on a map app, you can do a screenshot of the compass. And I did that just recently when I was in London on the Prime Meridian, right? I wanted to see that it was, uh, what is it, 51 latitude and 0 longitude, and I couldn't get it to 0. It was 0.005. So the prime meridian, I don't know. It's not exactly, wasn't exact. It's either the, you know, shifting of the Earth's magnetic field or something or other, but I couldn't get it to 0, all zeros. Oh, that was great. Wade, she was able to track your grandfather's side back to his great great grandfather. Yet it's, and I tell folks that, and I talk to them all the time. Well, I checked online and they don't have any records. Check again. There are something crazy like 4 billion new records added every year. So if you checked 2 years ago and couldn't find your ancestors' immigration file, check again. There's only less than 1% of all relevant ancestry data online. That means there's 99 point some percent that's still out there in the world. And it's being collected every day and digitized every day. So I always say Google and re-Google, search and research your data. Wade, I do use it as well for the elevation. That is so important. I and I didn't put it in this presentation. It's another class I teach about a specific locations around Washington, D.C., the historic forts that were located all around the nation's capital prior to the Civil War. And one of them is Fort Reno, previously Fort Pennsylvania. It is the highest point in Washington, D.C. And if you go to that site, I open the compass map, right, and see what the highest point in DC is. It's not very high. It's, I don't know. I don't quote me on this, but it's like, 400 feet. It's not very high. And then when we get out into the quote mountains in Maryland, you can watch it get higher. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Oh, even though you're out of cell service, the compass still works. That is smart. That's great to know. I didn't think about that. Yeah, I've been having challenges with cell service lately. So when you see GPS coordinates, you could see them in two different ways. The old, um, the old empirical form of degrees, minutes, seconds, DMS, the old English format is on the top there. So you see 38 degrees, 53 minutes, 22.1424 seconds north, et cetera, et cetera. Today, we've converted to decimal degrees. It's the more metric version, everything divisible in tens. So both of those expressions, while the first two digits are the same, 38 north, 77 west, you'll see that the trailing digits are different because on the second expression, it's done divisible by tens, right, in decimal, versus degrees, minutes, seconds, which are divisible by 60 instead of by 100. Bottom line is both of those expressions are exactly the same place. That is the Washington Monument. That is the GPS location of the Washington Monument. Hi, smart boy. Yeah, the picture is just showing the example that I used to show the two different formats for GPS. It's standing at the base of the Washington Monument there. So your phone might could record in different ways. Your phone versus your compass app, they could record in different ways, and it's a real easy way to convert. If you enter either of these expressions in a search engine, it'll get you to the same place. So capturing GPS data for images. So we're going to get there. We're going to talk about cataloging today. Capturing GPS data for images is super easy. On your digital phone, if you have a more modern camera body, you can select GPS settings. And my camera is it's more than 10 years old at this point, and it has GPS settings. My camera can connect to Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and capture the GPS and the metadata of the image. And you can set up your settings to capture that. Super easy and an absolute great way to make sure that you know in the future where you were. Now, again, this isn't going to tell you who's in the picture, right? GPS doesn't solve all of our problems for us. Doesn't tell us who, but we can certainly get the date, the time, and the GPS settings correctly. Now, make sure that your camera is set for the date and the time, because although GPS is active via Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, I find that on my camera, I still have to reset my camera for daylight savings time. It doesn't automatically update. But again, my camera is like 10 years old. Now, I do find, obviously, this is going to drain your camera battery faster if you're doing this. So if you're in a habit of, going out on a long weekend adventure, invest in a spare camera battery. It's a great investment. It's like 40 bucks. On your phone, again, this is super easy. Turn on the Wi-Fi. Go to your phone app. I'm sorry, go to your camera app in your phone, check on the settings, and make sure it's capturing your location, and you're putting allow for location settings for your phone. When you do that, magic happens. So this is a photo that I took in this is when I was in Arizona or New Mexico. It's at Tonto National Monument, and I do apologize, I can't remember. I think it's Arizona. I do think it's Arizona. Um, but I took this photo, and that's all I did. I snapped the button to take the photo. And then here's all the great information that's in my iPhone. When I go into the info for that photo, it tells me the date I took it. So this was July 1st, 2022 at 10:23 local time. It pulls up the map and plots the photo on the map. It actually also tells me the settings for the camera. And if I click on the map, it will plot the point on a Google map. And there you'll see the GPS coordinates there. So it does all the work for you, but what it doesn't do is put the names of the people you were with. Now, this is also a great reminder to use your digital camera and an iPhone together. I know I never thought I'd be saying this, that I'd be taking photos from an iPhone and thinking that, they were good, having my whole life behind a real camera. But now I often, when I'm taking important photos with my real camera, I also snap photos with my iPhone because it records where I am and what I am. Smart boy, you're a dropout, uneducated guy. Bye. I understand nothing. Well, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here. Um, oh, wait, be sure to shoot in RAW on DSLR. Yes, yes, and yes. There's actually a t-shirt out there that says I shoot RAW. I do shoot RAW. I delete 99% of the photos later, but I am so glad that I do shoot RAW when there is that absolute perfect photo that I need. And the the challenge there being, let's all face it, digital photos suck. For those who are used to good film, who grew up in a family of photographers, who spent their lives trying to find the perfect sunset or sunrise and catch golden hour, digital photos will never be able to do what film has done. You will never be able to zoom in as much as you can on film. And there are so many historic examples, you know, back to, a photo of Abraham Lincoln at the Gettysburg address because we can zoom in and zoom in and zoom in on that plate and see his hat in the crowd. You could never do that with a digital photo. Today, you can't do that with a digital photo. To zoom in and not be pixelified. But There are plenty of benefits to digital photos. And yeah, on the iPhone, turning the grid on. So when I'm doing my live streams, I have the grid on to help me stay level. Our eyes play tricks on us all the time. I have a habit of tilting my head, and I don't realize until I come home and look at my photos that all my photos are crooked. When I'm looking at them, they look right and fine, but I don't realize my head is tilted. So using that grid is definitely it's a great tool. And then once you're in the metadata for your photo, whether you took it with your DSLR or with your iPhone, you can find those GPS coordinates as well. You find it under the properties and the details. You can scroll to GPS. So when you upload it to your files on your computer, you can actually go in and copy and paste all of those coordinates and quickly make a map. If you have a lot of time on your hands, you could copy and paste them into another file, like a spreadsheet, upload to Google Maps, and then create a walking tour map. I'm not going to spend that much time doing it, but it's possible. And here's how easy it is to do. All right. So this is an example where I did take GPS coordinates, uploaded a spreadsheet, and ended up and then labeled the locations for some families in Baltimore, some historic locations of a couple of families in Baltimore, because I did an architectural tour of all the sites. Super easy to do and a great resource for your research. And once you have the GPS locations that you're looking for or that are important to your research, you can integrate with so many different apps. Um, Find a grave. Now, when you go to a grave and take a photo of the grave, you can add the GPS coordinates so that other people can find, they don't just have the benefit of your photo, which is wonderful, but they have the benefit of the exact location. If you've ever done grave hunting like me, sometimes it takes a long time. Sometimes those markers aren't there anymore. So the more you can hone in, GPS allegedly, is accurate to about now on the website for the national GPS website, it says 3 feet by 3 feet. I will say 3 yards by 3 yards for accuracy. Still incredibly accurate. And then you have all the apps here for Ancestry.com, MyHeritage, Family Search, the hiking app, all kinds of cool things that you can use once you have that GPS information, or you can pull GPS information down from. And this is just a example of what Find a Grave has done in the last few years to not just show you a photo of a headstone and a location, but you can zoom in because someone here, that someone was me, has clicked when they found the actual headstone, and now other folks can go and zoom right in and find it. Do I use ONX? Oh, I don't know what that is, so I probably don't use ONX. I'll have to look that up, Wade. Now, here is the project for today. Today's project is cataloging and indexing. Let's see. I don't know. If I could do 100, I'd be really happy. I think at last count, I had 22,000 photos that were waiting to be cataloged from the last 2 years. I have about 2,000 hours of video. ONX off-road to be exact. No, I'll have to look that up, Wade. Thank you for that. So with all these files and videos, a snowy, rainy day is absolutely welcomed at this point. I and I think everyone has a challenge when you think you know where that photo is that you want to find, and it's not where you thought it is. And wow, wouldn't it be great to do a search? But you didn't name your photo. So doing a search for, you know, South Mountain, the Hamilton Willard Schaefer Farm, that's what HWS is is not helpful at all if I didn't name the file. So this is my file naming convention. It's really long, but it is super duper helpful. We start with the date, and the date has to be written in this way to make it sortable. Start with the year 2026. The month has to be preceded by the number of the month. So 01 Jan, 02 Feb, 03 March, 04 April, 05 May. Why do we do that? Because when we sort, if we don't do that, then we end up with April and August at the top because it'll sort alphabetically on the name of the month instead of the number of the month. So 2026, 01 Jan, and then the date, January 15th, for example. Next is the place or person or event or whatever the subject, the general subject is. So here, January 15th, 2026 at South Mountain. No, I was not there a few days ago. Too rainy. Just an example. We put the date, place, or event next so that we can both sort and search by those names. That'll help you find what you're looking for. Next is the number of the photo and the specific subject. So here, South Mountain 01, the first photo of the Hamilton Willard Schaefer farm that I took on January 15th of 2026. As I make my way around South Mountain, if I take a photo of the South Mountain Visitor Center, I will change it to 01 or 02 or 03 South Mountain Visitor Center and be as descriptive as you can. And yes, this makes your file names really long, but this is how you'll find them. And this is how your descendants will find them years and years and years from now. This naming convention is also applicable to your folders, of course. So over here, each day for me, and sometimes on multiple days, has a folder. And here you can see in 2025, on September 18th, I was at the Sculpture Garden, the National Sculpture Garden in Washington, D.C. On September 28th, I was in Calorama doing a tour of Massachusetts Avenue and the Gilded Age mansions. And I went back there on October 4th. October 11th, I was in Middletown, Maryland. And oh my gosh, I had like 300 people on the live stream that day. That was a wild day. And it was a beautiful day. And I took so many photos. And then we went to Rock Hall and then we went to Denton. We had an amazing year last year with all that good weather. Good weather made for a lot of adventures last year. So this is what I'm going to do today from this desk on my computer and on paper. Now, just a couple of other items around photos. And this presentation continues because this is a whole course that I teach. I'll skip. You can take those GPS coordinates, by the way, and add them into other software that you use, like Ancestry.com. This is actually Family Tree Maker. And if you add the GPS coordinates, it will also produce a map within Family Tree Maker. Also in Family Search, you can search on information that you find in the records. It will give you a map of a location and you can import that information. And you can also learn about the specific location here. This is Dietikon in Zurich, Switzerland. And it tells the demographic information about that location too. So I won't get too much into that today, but we can take that information and create all kinds of cool stuff like maps and tours and other cool things. And that's all I wanted to share on that presentation. So today, when I go through my files and photos, I will do a lot of deleting, do some cropping, do some photo archaeology. We'll spend a whole we'll make a whole video on photo archaeology. For my old photos, however, my family historic photos, I do have a box, and I'll talk about historic preservation, but today I just wanna say one thing about historic preservation and photos. Most important thing you can do to preserve your old photos is make copies of those photos. Make copies of those photos before it's too late on a high quality scanner, as well as take photographs of the photos. That way you can share those photos and you can put the originals away. And then if you absolutely know who's on those photos, yep, write it on the back of the photos. I know there's someone who said to me recently, "Well, if you're preserving your own photos, why would you deface them by writing on the back of them?" And I just stared the person down. I was like, "Oh my gosh." Oh my goodness, why on earth would you even question writing the names on the old photos? Because if you don't, then you lose them forever. We can talk at length about where and how to put your original photos. We can talk about light sensitivity and how to make sure that you keep UV light away from your family documents and photos. We have a lot that we can talk about from the desk. But today I'm here. This is, like I said, a test live stream. We're here because we can't be outside. And I hope for some this has been helpful. And I really appreciate Wade and Daphne, James, and Smart Boy too for dropping by this very impromptu, completely unscheduled live stream. I hope that maybe, weather permitting, I can get outside tomorrow. If not, it'll be next weekend. We have a couple of great places to go. 34th and 35th Streets in Georgetown are definitely high up on the list for our next adventures. Taking a look at some federal style residential architecture. So look for that. For those of you who are members, I will be posting my updated completist lists. And so I have my London Underground lines that I've completed, the Central Line, Metropolitan Line, Jubilee Line, and Piccadilly lines are complete. So we're going to post those. I am now diving into historic fire stations. That's the new ad for 2026. Of course, I have to finish up on my other completest lists. We also added London borough signs and ward signs, but I only get to London once a year. So we'll, that'll take a back seat. But I think you'll be seeing lots of fire stations in the streams to come. Thank you all so much, Daphne. You are wonderful. Check out Daphne's channel. Daphne, I checked out some of your Valentine's finds. I think they're great. I can't wait to see everything you come up for Valentine's Day. But we're not too far from St. Patrick's Day either, so I'm wondering if there's going to be any green in your future, Daphne. But thank you for such entertaining streams. Everybody, check out Daphne Glitters. Smart Boy, thank you so much. Everyone, have a fantastic week. I hope we all get to get outside. Take care.